So, the big Helldivers 2 patch is right around the corner and everyone is anxiously waiting. With over 100 changes planned, it's going to be a big one. But I can confidently tell you right now, I think there's one stratagem in this game that probably won't be changed. So I'm confident about making a video about it right now. If it ends up getting nerfed or buffed or changed in any significant way, I will gladly eat my own words. But I feel very strongly that this thing will not be touched in the next massive patch because I believe this stratagem is one of the most underrated and underutilized in the game, despite being one of the best. Of course, you know by the title of this video, I'm talking about the B1 supply pack. And if you're not a supply pack user, you will probably be extremely confused because like most players before giving this stratagem a chance, you are probably under the assumption that this thing is used as a pure support backpack. You're supposed to run around, make sure your team is stocked up, and overall just provide support. And that's not a wrong assumption to make. On a surface level, it has support written all over it. But what if I told you this backpack was one of the best in the game at unlocking a self-sufficient solo playstyle? And I don't mean solo as in going into games by yourself. I mean solo in the sense that with this backpack, you have the liberty to split away from your team and complete objectives on your own without ever needing ammo, grenades, or stims. Because I'm not joking, this thing has the ability to unlock the full potential of loadouts and weapons you normally wouldn't ever think are good, and turn them into some of the most fun and best loadouts you'll ever use in this game. I've actually been running this thing since before the Meridia mission, and I think this mission started opening people's eyes into starting to see the potential that this stratagem has. Because I genuinely believe this is one of the most versatile in the game. It can fill many different roles and unlock many different playstyles, one of which is incredibly broken. However, I have to say that this stratagem, and specifically the strategies and loadout laid out in this video, are definitely better against bugs than they are against bots. I do have a section towards the end of this video specifically covering the supply pack against automatons, but I wanted to let you know now before you watch half of the video and try the stratagem out against bots and then come back and call me a liar, because I have totally done that to other people. With that being said though, my name is Easy, and here is my favorite backpack in Helldivers 2, the B1 Supply Pack. Let's dive immediately into the raw stats and requirements of this bad boy. Luckily for any lower level players out there, you only need to be level 5 to unlock it, then it costs 4,000 requisition slips to add to your arsenal. And once on the front lines, the B1 Supply Pack functions nearly identically to the standard resupply stratagem. The only difference being you can put this one on your back. As a reminder, a single box will give you 2 grenades, 2 stims, full reserve ammo for your primary and secondary, except for the grenade pistol, which will always give you 2, and give you half of the reserve mags for a support weapon, or all of the mags if you have the superior packing methodology module unlocked. So again, it's almost identical to the basic resupply box. However, I say almost because the B1 supply pack cannot restore other users' supply packs because then you just have an unlimited ammo farm. Also, I want to inform people who may not know this, but on PS5 you click down on the D-pad to resupply yourself, and on PC you click 5. I've also got to mention that the only way to resupply your supply pack is by picking up supply boxes from the resupply stratagem. I feel like I've said supply like 80 times so far in this video. Anyway, it's not really important that you remember any of that, because you'll find with this thing on your back, ammo, stims, and grenades are no longer a problem. Unless you are just completely wasteful, you typically will not run out of anything before the supply pack cooldown is up, which is around 8 minutes without any module upgrades. Plus, picking up normal resupply boxes will give you all of the supplies that you would normally receive on top of getting an extra charge for your supply pack, essentially doubling the value a resupply box gives you. And that is reason number 1 why I love this thing. Like I said earlier, it allows you to venture off on your own and not need to scavenge for ammo or stim crates. We've all been in games where one player goes off on their own and greedily uses the resupply stratagem for themselves. It's definitely annoying and can screw over some of your teammates. I'm sure you've also been in a game where you were the one that went off on your own and either called the resupply for yourself or spent time scavenging for ammo boxes on the floor. Either way, it's not a fun situation for anybody to be involved in, and the B1 supply pack completely eliminates this. Reason number 2 that I love this thing is that it's very broken to have upwards of 10 stims at a time. Let's assume you don't run armor with the medkit passive, so you don't get bonus stims, and for whatever reason, nobody on your team ran Hellpod space optimization, so you drop in on the map with 2 stims. Then you call your resupply pack, which gives you upwards of 8 more if you need them, and that is 10 stims minimum no matter what armor or booster you're running. But in most games, somebody should have Hellpod space optimization, so you'll start with 4 stims, meaning you will have 12 total. Now let's get crazy and say you decided to pair this with the medkit passive. Now you've got 6 stims when you spawn in and 8 more from the supply pack. That is 14 stims. Literally the only way you can die with this amount of stims is by getting your heals interrupted or getting one shot. Which admittedly both of these things do happen, but with this amount of stims you no longer need to be conservative with your usage. If you get hit a single time, you can pop one instantly, even if there's nothing else around you. You can basically spam them, which usually you don't want to do because you'd run out super fast, but here there is no running out, even when you pop them without a care in the world. Realistically, I think you can run the supply pack with any loadout in the game and you'd get very good value no matter what. But now that you have a bit of context as to why this thing is good just in general, I did mention earlier that the supply pack has the ability to tap into the true potential of certain loadouts, weapons, and strategies. And that is reason number 3 why I love the liberty out of this thing. First up is the strategy that allows you to essentially heal yourself through any situation, barring getting one shot. Well, actually, it's less of a strategy and more of a built-in bonus of having the supply pack. As I touched on a bit earlier, with this thing on your back, it becomes very difficult for the enemies to kill you, especially against Terminids. It's a bit different against automatons. I will touch on this a little later as mentioned, but man, against the bugs, you just have way too many stims. Sure, mishaps do happen if you get a little too close to a Bile Titan or tank some spewer spit to the face, but barring those events, you are typically safe from most enemies, even when you're running through crowds of them. Pre-stimming is one of the best strategies you can use in this game. If you don't know what that is specifically, it's basically just popping your stim as soon as you're able to, because you know you're about to take more damage. Essentially, when under the effects of a stim, you are basically invincible because you heal rapidly during the stim's effects. This means you can escape most situations that realistically nobody should be living through. Typically, outside of getting one shot, most players die because they get their stim animation cancelled or they run out of stims in the middle of a fight. With the supply backpack though, there is no such thing as being conservative, meaning you have more liberty to pre-stim and or spam your stims, which significantly lowers the odds that you die to an animation cancel, and running out of stims in the middle of a fight is virtually impossible with this backpack. My point with explaining all of that is that with the supply backpack, you should feel like you have much more liberty to get up close and personal and even run through hordes of enemies if you need to. But this is just the beginning. If you really want to augment your supply pack build, run it with Hellpod space optimization and a set of armor with the medkit passive. This means in total you'll have 14 stims on your person at a single time. But the amount of stims you have aside, the medkit passive also increases the duration of stims by 2 seconds, meaning this is an extra 2 seconds of rapid healing, which unless you get one shot makes you basically invincible. If you thought that running the supply pack alone was strong, I would go as far to say that pairing it with the medkit armor is borderline broken. Seriously, there are situations where you run through like 20 bugs hitting you and you simply won't die because the healing is too strong and it lasts for too long. Medkit is undoubtedly the best armor passive to run with the supply pack, but it's not the only one it's good with. Realistically, you can kind of run the supply pack with any loadout and just play normally with unlimited supplies, but I find if you really lean into the fact that you have unlimited stims, grenades, and ammo, you can adopt certain playstyles that wouldn't exist otherwise. If you really refuse to run medkit, I think engineering kit, which gives you extra grenades, is pretty decent with the supply pack. But as you'll see later in this video, the builds that surround the supply pack are horde clear based, so it's kind of overkill to bring a ton of grenades. And outside of those 2 armor passives, there really aren't any others in the game that directly synergize with the supply pack, and that's completely fine. Like I said, you don't absolutely need to have a medkit to make this loadout work, but it will significantly make you stronger, so I can heavily recommend running it if you have it. If you don't have a medkit set or don't want to run it, I would say that just in general, light sets of armor are best against bugs with this build, because the ability to have unlimited sprint due to gaining full stamina every time you stim means that it's just far better to have the most move speed possible with the light set to be able to run your way in and out of hordes of bugs. Against automatons though, I would say it's down to preference. If you want to be fast, go for light. If you want to not get one shot, go for heavy. I'll explain a bit more later, but it's really as simple as that. Now, it's finally time to get into some of the loadouts and builds with the supply pack. I will say there is a lot of variety available. Again, you can kind of run the supply pack with whatever you want, but if you want to get the most value possible out of it, I do think there is a general best mentality to take when crafting your build. In my opinion, you should be running a stratagem weapon that can be used for spray and pray horde clear. This weapon will be used as your new primary weapon in most situations. As I mentioned earlier in this video, most, if not all of the good builds with the supply pack are horde clear based. So my personal favorite is running either the grenade launcher or stalwart. Both of these weapons have the ability to spray and pray and just absolutely delete anything that isn't a charger or bile titan. Again, against automatons, it's a bit different, but I will touch on that a bit later. That being said, with the supply pack, you once again will not have to worry about ammo, so with guns like the stalwart and grenade launcher, you can kind of just hold the shoot button and spray into crowds. The stalwart typically has a decent ammo capacity, but not quite enough to truly make it your main weapon throughout an entire mission, but with the supply pack, this is no longer an issue. However, the grenade launcher's biggest weakness is really its ammo capacity. It only gets 2 spare mags with 10 shots each. That's not great, but I'll say it again, with the supply backpack, you are no longer concerned with ammo. You can call your backpack and nade launcher down at the start, and by the time you are out of ammo, both of them will be off cooldown. And mind you, this is while using the nade launcher like it's your primary weapon, which first of all is extremely fun, but is obviously very powerful. You can also use weapons like the heavy machine gun or MG43 machine gun. I don't really think that out of the 4 true horde clear stratagem weapons in the game, one is truly better than the other, but there are specific situations where some can shine and some can be bad. For example, if you're in a mission and the game decides to spawn a bunch of bile spewers, which are the armored ones, you are going to have a really tough time taking them out with the stalwart. In these specific missions, the grenade launcher really shines. I probably don't need to be the one to tell you, but the grenade launcher just claps both of these spewer variants in usually 2, maybe 3 shots. The spewer spawns are typically some of the more difficult, but genuinely, if you have the grenade launcher and supply pack in one of these missions, it won't be a challenge at all. You basically just walk around blowing stuff up without a care in the world. Very quickly, let's go back to the MG43 and heavy machine gun. Now, honestly, I do not rock with the MG43 at all. I kind of think it's just bad, like the stalwart is just better. The only thing the MG has over it is the ability to shoot through medium armor, but this is not enough of a reason to sacrifice the mobility that the stalwart provides. The ability to spray and pray and run while reloading cannot be understated. The MG43 is really bad in this area. Its capacity is smaller than the stalwart, meaning you're spending more time reloading on the floor than you are actually killing bugs. I do understand why some people like the MG43 though, but I'd say in the case of the supply pack build, the stalwart is the way to go. The heavy machine gun also falls into a similar spot as the MG43, however, it's a bit different because of the amount of raw power that the HMG can bring. Much like the nade launcher, in standard situations, the biggest issue with the HMG is that it simply doesn't have enough ammo. But with the supply pack, the new biggest issue is that you're simply reloading far too much. You'll never actually run out of spare ammo, but the HMG doesn't have enough shots per mag to be a true horde clear weapon. The gun really shines at deleting medium tier enemies in just a few bullets, things like brood commanders, hive guards, spewers, and stalkers, but I just don't think against bugs the HMG provides enough justification to be on the floor reloading after shooting 75 bullets. I should also mention other support weapons like the anti-material rifle, railgun, and even things like the laser cannon and quasar. These weapons don't utilize the supply pack quite like the nade launcher and stalwart can. You really want to be taking full advantage of the fact that you basically have unlimited ammo, so using support weapons that typically don't ever have ammo problems just doesn't allow you to do that. Plus, things like the laser cannon and quasar literally don't require ammo in the first place. However, it's not the end of the world if you aren't taking full advantage of your supply pack in regards to your support weapon. Like we talked about earlier, in my opinion, the stims alone provide enough justification to use the supply pack no matter what build you decide to go with. So if you wanted to run a more traditional build with, say, the quasar cannon, you totally could and shouldn't feel bad for doing so. I just simply believe that the fact that the supply pack can eliminate a weapon's biggest weakness, in this case the grenade launcher's ammo capacity, is something that you should take advantage of. But I just want to reiterate for the last time, I myself have run the supply pack with more traditional weapons, and it's been completely fine. The massive amount of stims and grenades was still insane, and I still managed to use my supply charges very frequently. So now that we've just covered the best armor set and some good stratagem weapons to use with the supply pack, let's just take this time and complete the best ideal build for the supply pack. Now we're going to assume we're straying away from the traditional builds, and this time we are aiming for a horde clear build, meaning we've got the grenade launcher or stalwart with our supply pack. Either one of those two weapons alone are more than enough to deal with major hordes, so the rest of the build is largely going to be focused on rounding things out. There is no reason to take more horde clear weapons or stratagems in our loadout. I'm a true believer in having the ability to deal with any situation that is thrown at you in this game, so from the perspective of a bug mission, our supply pack and grenade launcher or stalwart has already equipped us to take down everything that isn't bile titans and chargers. For our primary weapon, I'd say the Scorcher is by far the #1 pick. If you can pump a full mag into a charger butt, it will bleed out within the next 8 seconds. If you don't own that weapon, I'd go for something else that is effective against charger butts. Really, anything explosive. The Eruptor or Exploding Crossbow are fine choices, but both of these weapons have been nerfed to oblivion, so I'd really recommend using the Scorcher here. On top of being a fantastic charger killer, the Scorcher also provides some range and one-shot streakers, so that's something you'll want in this loadout. For your secondary weapon, if you have the nade launcher, take the Redeemer or Verdict. If you have the Stalwart, take the grenade pistol, no exceptions. This is because for your grenade, you are going to take the stun grenade, so you'll need a way to take down bug holes. I haven't talked much about the stun grenade yet, and I'll get to that, but other than being one of the best grenades in the game, the stun grenade has a specific purpose in this build, and you'll see that. For your last 2 stratagem slots, you want to take air support that can deal with bile titans. Usually, I like to run 500 kg bomb and orbital precision strike because of the low cooldowns, However, if you are in a mission that has the atmospheric interference modifier, do not take orbital precision, and I would replace it with something like orbital rail cannon or orbital laser. Lastly, the booster doesn't matter too much in regards to the build itself, but if someone isn't running Hellpod space optimization, I would definitely equip that without a second thought. And that right there on your screen is my full completed favorite way to use the supply pack. As I said earlier, you can run the supply pack with anything you want, but I have a feeling you'll have a lot more fun adopting that horde clear role and using the grenade launcher or stalwart as your primary weapon. Seriously, it is a blast and a ton of fun. Now let's talk about the gameplay a bit with this build against bugs before getting to the automatons. I have touched on this throughout the video, but really your role on the team is going to be killing as many small and medium enemies as you can. You are the wave clear. Spray and pray with either your grenade launcher or stalwart, it really doesn't matter. You just need to ensure that every small enemy doesn't get a chance to exist. You will feel like a bug breach king with this build, and the only thing that can throw a wrench in your strategy is a Bile Titan or Charger. Chargers are typically much easier to deal with, and they are the reason you take the stun grenades. If one is running at you, juke past it, then stun it before it turns around, and the stun duration will give you ample time to pump a full clip of the Scorcher into its behind, and it will end up bleeding to death. If you don't have the Scorcher, the Stalwart on the highest fire rate can do the job too. Just make sure the Charger butt explodes and is bleeding, and it will die out. And whenever a Bile Titan spawns, you have your last 2 Stratagem slots dedicated to taking these dudes down. If you can get good with your 500 kg or orbital precision placements, Bile Titans become a non-issue. Both of these can one-shot. However, unfortunately, the stun grenades that I did mention do not stun Titans, but I cannot understate how important they are in this build. Not just for the Chargers, but they can also be used in sticky situations. If you find yourself in a spot where you need to reload, you can throw a few at a horde and it will give you more than enough time to reload and reposition. Don't worry, you've got plenty of nades, so feel free to spam them. Also, do not forget, if you're missing any amount of health, you can stim whenever and however many times you want, and that on top of the healing, you will get a full stamina bar. There is a legitimate strategy with the Scorcher where you shoot yourself in the foot just to be able to stim and restore your stamina. You can also do this if you're running into a horde to give yourself a very early pre-stim. I mean, just take a look at this screenshot here. In this one game, I stimmed over 20 times with over 450 kills. This is a typical game with this build. You will become a wave-clearing, unkillable healing machine. It is absolutely absurd and is one of the funnest builds I've ever used in this game. On top of this, the build is probably going to get even better when the new booster drops on Thursday, which buffs your stims to give you faster speed and damage reduction when under their effects. Lastly here, I do want to touch on the automatons at least a little bit. So like I mentioned, the build I put together a second ago is pretty much only good against Terminids. The Stalwart is not great against bots, and the grenade launcher is a little above average, I'd say, but it's not amazing. This doesn't mean that the supply pack as a whole is bad against bots, but I just don't think it provides as much value as it does against bugs. And that's not just reflective in the support weapon combinations, but also the stims. Obviously, you can never go wrong with having 10 stims, but realistically against automatons, you are either getting ragdolled to death without a chance to stim, or you're just smartly playing behind cover without getting hit at all. Running out of stims definitely still happens, but far less than it does on the bug front. Against bugs with the supply pack, you have the liberty to run around them and tank as many hits as you want, but against the automatons, you just don't have that. If you are running around in the open, no amount of stims is going to save you from a death by ragdoll or getting shot by a tank. The whole point of playing riskier and more up close with the supply pack is pretty much defeated against the automatons. On this front, it's more about strategy than it is killing as fast as possible, and that simply means that you would probably be far better off with something like the ballistic shield, shield generator, or even the autocannon pack. All of that being said, you definitely still can run the supply pack against bots, you just won't feel like the unstoppable machine that you were against bugs. This stratagem is definitely more bug-oriented, at least in the playstyle that I like to adopt with it. Of course, if you'd like to take the supply pack and simply use it to support your team, it probably doesn't really matter what front you bring it to. In the end, I genuinely believe this is one of the most versatile and useful backpacks in the game, and I don't see enough people using it. Most prefer to just go with Guard Dog Rover or Shield Generator, and I'd love to see more supply pack enjoyers in my lobby. So please, go give this thing a try, I don't think you'll regret it. Again, my name is Easy, thank you so much for watching, I very much appreciate it, especially those of you hearing this message that made it to the end of this video. If you liked the video, drop a like, and if you want more content like this, drop a sub. Seriously, this next week is about to be massive for Helldivers 2, and I've got content planned for everything coming out, so you do not want to miss that. Until then, take care, have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. See ya!